from an outsider's point of view, that's what I thought was really strong about the Manics, was that they created their world. That's what I always wanted with Suede as well. I never wanted to be part of anything bigger than Suede.
Yeah.
The irony was that Suede actually started Britpop.
Yeah.
And which became much bigger than any one single band.
I can't deny that when Suede first came out, I was a little bit jealous, because they just started taking off, and they started getting Enemy covers we might have had. Now we're finding the tension.
Welcome to the show, two titans of the music scene. Brett Anderson from Suede, James Dean Bradfield from the Manic Street Preachers. Welcome to Home Time, chaps. It's great to have you on.
Hi.
With the concept of touring together, obviously you guys have done that before. You did it way back in the 90s. You know it's a venture that works. But is there a competitive element, that kind of healthy competitive element that comes in the tour? One band's always going to see the other performing first and all that kind of thing.
I think back in the day, yeah, definitely. Back in the day, we were competitive, especially when there was a weekly music press. I think everybody was competitive with each other, and that doesn't disappear.
You can have healthy competition, can't you?
But it dims somewhat, so to speak. I suppose the way you can mark it is some nights when we were touring America, because we swapped headlines, every other night just about, and some nights when Suede were on first, I'd be watching them, and particularly on a night where Brett was just going feral and really connecting with the audience. I'd be thinking, I'm gonna have to break out some moves tonight.
So I've got the advantage of only having a microphone to carry around.
No, I know.
You've got a guitar as well,
but
so it's tricky.
You can try and be disingenuous about it, but if I only had a microphone in my hand, I wouldn't know what the hell to do.
I'm sure you do.
I need my guitar. I need my security blanket.
Yeah. So do you worry, obviously, like Richie said, you guys have toured together before, but it is going on tour with another band a little bit like going on holiday with a family that you like. You might get on each other's nerves, like Nicky hogs the shower, Matt takes ages to get ready. Is there a worry that you might get on each other's nerves a bit?
I think we're kind of both old enough and experienced enough to know that you've got to sort of give each other space and stuff. And we're sort of polite and friendly and hang out and all that sort of stuff. And they become good mates of ours. But we don't kind of like go and hassle them and sit in their dressing room, because I know full well that there's a weird time when you're in a band where you just need to be in your own space.
Yeah. Can another band's behaviour rub off on you a little bit? Because I remember seeing the Manics, you guys played with Screaming Trees supporting Oasis at Worcester, Massachusetts back in the 90s.
My goodness.
It was a long way back, but that was the Oasis tour where Liam and Noel were like falling out with each other, and I think they ended up splitting up and stuff. It was just a nightmare. Yes. Did that rub off on you guys? Were you aware of it at the time?
To be honest, at that particular point in time, it was just good to see. It was just good to see another band messing up instead of it being us for once. I mean, kind of like it was a particularly dramatic tour. Obviously, you had Screaming Trees, and you had Mark, and he was going through his stuff. And I really got on with the guy back then. God rest his soul and stuff. And then you saw kind of Liam just going full Vesuvius at some points. Yeah. And it was just nice to watch other people, because at that point we were we were perceived as a bit of a soap opera, so it was good to see it landed on somebody else for once.
Well, going back to that family metaphor, it's a bit like the other family's kid is playing up. It's kind of a relief.
That's the nature of an exciting band, though. I think both, one of the things that Suede and the Manics have got in common is that I think we were both very volatile when we first started, and there was always that sense that the band could fall apart. And that's exciting. It's that chemistry that's always on the edge, that it's never quite stable. And that's what makes exciting bands, And
I think that can be exciting on stage as well, because some nights, you're pushing a song so hard, like a song like Faster from the Holy Bible, and it's so ferocious, and Nick's so worried about like his scissor kicks, and Richie, will be so worried about just moving as much as he could, and it was just nearly falling apart, and that can be exciting to watch, it can be.
Both bands were NME Godlike Genius.
Yeah.
Obviously going to be differences, but what would you say are the similarities that make it work, a tour together?
But I think for me, when we toured together in 1994 for the first time, we were both touring Europe together with probably our most challenging records we've ever made. And interestingly enough, that was at the kind of apex of the whole Britpop thing that was happening in the UK. And that felt somehow kind of... There's something kind of like telling about that. I think both Suede and the Manics have always been a kind of outsiders band, And that's how we bond through our outsiderdom in a funny sort of way. And I think that's why there's lots of fans that like both bands, that kind of like they feel kinship with both bands, because there's a sort of an outsiderdom thing going on there.
I think Nicky said in an interview I watched recently that he said you guys both didn't kind of belong to anything, which is why you survived so long.
No, we didn't. I mean, we recognised as soon as Suede. I can't deny that when Suede first came out and released the Drowners, then Mountain Mickey, etc. I was a little bit jealous, because they just started taking off, and they started getting Enemy covers we might have had. Now we're finding the tension. But kind of recognised something straight away. Some of the reviews said that there was like some of Brett's lyrics were. It was kind of a J.G. Ballardian kind of vision of a dystopian future or present that we were living in. And we had the kind of Richie and Nick that were kind of obsessed with the French Situationists, which is talking about the absurdity of things. And we felt as if there was a kinship there, and we felt as if we weren't trying to bring people together. We were just trying to kind of tell it as it was at that point and just show the absurdity of things. So we felt connected on that. Definitely.
I think we were both separately trying to form our own cults in a way.
Yeah.
We both. That was. From an outsider's point of view, that's what I thought was really strong about the Manics, was that they created their world, and the disciples that gravitated towards them were almost singularly part of that world. And you became a Manics fan, and you bought into that. And I think that's what I always wanted with Suede as well. I never wanted to be a part of anything bigger than Suede.
Yeah.
Right,
yeah,
and I think the same goes for these guys. And the irony was that Suede actually started Britpop, and which became much bigger than any one single band. It became a kind of a generational.
But you kind of swerved that moniker, I guess.
We didn't. We were always sort of sucked into its thing, because the debut Suede album is the first Britpop album. It's just historically where it's just what happened really, and so we were always kind of connected to that, even though we never felt quite comfortable in that slipstream. So that's what I'd say. I think both bands kind of tried to create their own little worlds. I always liked bands like that weren't part of scenes. They were part of something stronger than that, something more individual than that.
I mean, you do have mad fans, don't you, the pair of you? In footballing parlance, they're almost ultras.
I think they were in kind of ultras.
Big flags.
They're keepers of the flame, I would call them sometimes.
Yes.
They feel as if sometimes, and I recognise this, I can empathise with this feeling. Sometimes the fans, those kind of fans, think they know the band better than themselves.
Yeah.
And I was certainly like that. I would get annoyed if, a guitarist in a band wouldn't use his signature guitar anymore. I'd be like, what the hell is wrong with this guy?
Oh, actually, you'd notice that kind of thing.
Yeah, I'd notice that kind of thing. Or you notice if they changed the text on the font on their records, and you'd be like, why are they doing this? Why? What are you doing this for? So I kind of understand, even though that mindset is pretty rabid and can be delusional. It's important as well.
Yeah.
When you guys are touring together and playing a gig together, co-headlining, can you pick out, is it almost sort of like pick out different sort of sets of fans, or do you see them sort of like moving around when they know that the other band is coming on later, or is it really mixed?
I can only talk of recent experience, and when we just did this American tour, it was late last year. Yeah, there was a lot of excitement because Suede hadn't been in America for over 20 years,
I think about 25 years.
25 years.
Yeah.
So there was a lot of excitement about playing some of the gigs, and I remember especially in Los Angeles, just the first 5 rows of people were just there for Suede. I was just like, oh, it's a nice welcome.
Setting flares off, etc.
That was a great gig, though, of yours.
It was
I really
a great
enjoyed
gig.
that.
Yeah,
one.
it was good.
Maybe because there was a bit of frisson.
A frisson, yeah.
You need that, though, don't you? I mean, speaking of the gigs, you're playing 1 hour 15 each in this co-headliner tour. Just focusing on the set. How do you decide what to play? Because both bands have so many hits. We had Blur in recently, and they actually outsourced their set list choosing to somebody else who picks their set list for them for their comeback gigs.
So you've given too much power to the people.
Power to the people. How do you decide, though? Because maybe you want a song you want to play that the rest of the band think, oh, no, let's just leave that. We've only got 1 hour 15, James.
I think it focuses you, and you just really don't want there to be any spare meat on there. I'll freely admit that I like to get the audience moving. When I go to see a band, I want to see their top line songs. I do. If they don't play certain songs, I get upset. So perhaps that makes me a bit cheap seats. I don't know. But we'll always play Motorcycle. We'll always play Design. We'll always play Tolerate. It's just the way it is because people look down on playing old songs, but you can't ever relive that moment unless you're in front of that song in a live performance environment ever again. It is every time I go to see a band and they perform a song that I loved 30 years ago, I'm reliving it, and I like that moment. But yes, you got to mitigate that by just doing stuff from nearly every album you've done, and we've always done that, And we don't road test songs, but we always play lots of, old stuff and lots of new stuff. We play everything. But Nick's in charge of the set list.
Is he the man with all that stuff?
He'll ask me about high keys now and again. He'll say, "Is that
a kick?"
No, it's just like are there too many songs in E in a row? I'd be like, yes, there are.
Is that a thing? Would that be something that you worry about? Too many songs in E?
Well, you try it, fella.
That's a good point. I'll give it a go. Just thought, does he warm up with his stretches for his kicks, by the way?
No, he's old-fashioned. No, he doesn't believe in that.
Just sees what happens.
I know that Brett's in. You pretty much do your set list on the spot every night, no?
Yeah, I mean, there's always songs, like James says, there's always songs you've got to play. And you will always play Animal Nitrate and whatever, beautiful ones, whatever. But I don't know. I think it's kind of boring for people reading a set list sort of 2,000 miles away on the internet and saying that they did beautiful ones again, they did trash again. But when you're in the room, the energy that you can only get from the big hits. Yeah, there's an energy. There's a feeling of unity with the crowd that you can only get from the really big ones. Of course, I like throwing obscure things in there as well, because I think you've got to keep the band on their toes. You've got to keep the audience on their toes a little bit as well.
Yeah,
but you can't. It's a balancing act. You can't just write set lists for the hardcore fan base, because then literally everyone except the first two rows will just go to the bar.
Yeah.
You've got to sort of keep the audience engaged. So it's a kind of like it's an interesting thing writing a set list. It's a real skill. And sometimes you get it wrong, and sometimes you hit it right, hit the nail right on the head. And it very much depends on what you're sick of playing, what you haven't played before, what you think you can dig at, what you think you can get away with.
Is there a song of each other's in a parallel world that you look at and kind of think, oh, wish that was ours?
Oh, God, many. Yeah. I mean, Trash, I was intensely jealous of.
Yeah.
Kind of New Generation, I absolutely love that song. Kind of like, so that's two off the top of my head straight away.
That was easy.
Pressure on you now, Brett.
Yeah, I mean, No Self Emptiness is just an absolute killer, stone cold classic. It really is. It's just amazing. Love it. I've always loved it. But it's got lots of words in it, so I'm not sure if I could do a cover of it. Every time they sing it, I'm like, what's he singing?
What's he saying?
Richie and Nick weren't big on punctuation.
I mean, it's like, but it works somehow. It's brilliant. But
so what we mean?
I love Tolerate as well. And it's a weird one because when that was a hit at the time, because it was a sort of big hit, it sort of passed me by a bit. You know how that happens sometimes?
Yeah.
You're a bit sort of, oh yeah, whatever, do you know what I mean? Mm-hmm. And it wasn't until we went on tour with them in the States that I was kind of listening to that every night. That's a beautiful song. It's a really powerful song.
So, I mean, what we love about both your bands is that the stuff you're releasing all these years on still sounds kind of current.
Yeah.
For example, we've recently been playing Suede's She Still Leads Me here on Absolute Radio. It was a fantastic song. I kind of hate it when bands chase the current craze and lose their way a little bit. What is the key to, for want of a better phrase, not going shit?
Interesting drive time perspective.
We'll see what they do with that.
I think like the main thing is that like you bring a song into the studio. We kind of all meet up with each other in Clean in South Wales, and we just meet up, then we play. And within 2 minutes whether something is working, and usually it's just one of either Nick and Sean pushing me into a corner as a musician where they are pushing in the song one way, or me trying to push them another way, and suddenly you can't stop playing, and it's brilliant, and you just go, should we do that again? Yeah. If Sean's just like, forget about it, I'm just like, okay.
So you can kind of get that vibe.
Yeah, so it's all about body language. Is Sean, he's just like, that's not good.
Yeah.
And that takes the wind out of yourselves. But as soon as you just all want to keep playing it together, you just know you're onto something. But yeah, it's kind of, I'm never going to say that, I'm never going to say that there was always a trad jazz element to our music. It's just not going to happen.
I'd love to hear that album though. Brett, for you, what about you?
Yeah, it's all about, like James said, it's all about instinct. It's all about instinct and being really honest with yourself. Right. I think lots of bands get to, there's a tendency or there's a temptation for bands to kind of like get to a certain stage in their career and sort of assume that everything they're doing is good because they're doing it.
Right.
And we're brutally honest with our songwriting. When the last album, Autofiction, that you mentioned, Scott, She Still Leads Me On it, that took 4 years to write.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
So why so long? Just going back and
4 years to write,
ripping stuff up,
because
and
it took 4 years to write, because it wasn't good enough, and it still wasn't good enough, and it still wasn't good enough, and 4 years later it was good enough.
You kept throwing stuff away, basically.
We kept throwing stuff. We probably, we write at least 50, 60 songs for every album. Yeah.
Really? Wow, that's amazing.
And throw them all away. And for me, it's not a problem, because those songs that you lose, you kind of, obviously the question is, do you ever reuse them? Sometimes bits of them kind of reappear and stuff like that. But that's not the point. You're just exercising your songwriting muscles while you're writing them. It's part of the process now.
You've just announced one hell of a box set.
Yeah.
Previously unreleased.
One hell of a bad box set. Yeah. I don't think you really want to hear it. There's a reason we scrap songs, don't we? So yeah, a lot of work, and it's deceptively simple. You know what I mean? It seems last album was 11 songs, and it seems simple and straightforward, but there's a lot of work behind that. And the new record we're making at the moment, we're kind of we've been writing it for about 2 years now, and I think we're about halfway there. So,
oh, wow.
That's similar time average, then.
Yeah,
you're on target.
We'll probably take another 2 years for it to be released. There's 6 songs that I'm pretty confident are bangers, and there's another 6 that might kind of go up or down the charts, depending. But we need another solid 5 bangers.
It's an incredible tour you've announced next year. All these outdoor venues, castles and palaces, Alexandra and Cardiff and Edinburgh and such like. It's great for the fans to be able to see 2 full sets, 2 bands, one night, one ticket. Is there any fantasy world 2 bands that you would have liked to have sort of seen? If I could see these 2 on one night, who would it have been?
I wish you'd prep me for that question.
That's a real prep question, isn't it? I would have liked to have seen the Sex Pistols if I was, in 1976.
Tell you what would be good would be Sex Pistols, and then Johnny Stays On, and then High Time Pill will all
Yes.
the original members.
Yes.
That'd be amazing.
That's a good answer.
There we go. You've answered it together.
Yeah, I'd like to
Without
see
the
the
prep.
Pistols, and then Rise and
Clash in a
Public
Big Audio
Image and
Dynamite. That would have been good.
Yeah. As you get older, music obviously still a big part of your life, but you develop other interests and hobbies. Bez from Happy Mondays is a beekeeper. Have you guys got any hobbies or interests that you've developed over the years since obviously you first appeared on the music scene, James?
No, I like to think that I had a quite rounded life. I've always been interested in lots of things.
That's a very pre-prepared statement talking about prep.
Cop out with that one,
I'm going to have to push you on this, James.
I read.
Come on, tell us about your hobbies.
Come on, James.
Bookbinding, right?
I read. I have thought about that because I know somebody who's a bookbinder, and it looks it looks good.
You can't beat a brilliantly bound book, can you?
No,
really
you can't. No, but I always manage to bust them. I always manage to bust them. Sorry, I forgot. It's kind of like, but no, I've always loved a good walk on the beach with my dog. I've always liked cooking. I've always liked running.
Yeah.
And I've always liked to go and watch rugby, football, and cricket. So there you go.
Okay, that's cool. Brett, have you got any interest?
I'm prepared for this. Okay, so the only thing I'm going to say, I do this thing with my little boy called day camping, which I think I've invented.
I love
wow.
the sound of
Right?
this.
Yeah.
So what it is like my little boy's friends' dads, they're all really outdoorsy, yeah, because we live in the country, and they're all kind of like, outdoors. They build them kind of, kind of tree houses and things like that. Anyway, he was like, Dad, can we go camping one night? This is the middle of January, because one of his friends had just been camping because his dad's in the army or whatever. I'm like, no, but how about if we go out day camping? So what we do is we go out, we take wood for a fire, we take marshmallows, we take sandwiches,
Yeah.
and a little kind of tent in case it's raining. We go to the middle of the forest, and we kind of like build a little fire and sit there and chat and get all the good things about camping, but without the kind of being chewed at 4 a.m. by a goat.
That's what a brilliant thing.
So there you go.
idea.
So anyone
Yeah.
that lives in the countryside, that's my tip for you. Go
What do you
day
call it?
Day camping.
Day camp.
Day camping. That's
brilliant,
I'm going
isn't
to
it?
give day camping a go. That's fantastic.
James, back in the 90s, if it had approached the part of an interview where you're just going over dates and where people can buy tickets, be honest, would you have got out glasses to go through them?
Oh God, I had a gammy eye when I was young.
Oh, right.
Yeah,
So that's not
Thanks, you
something
made me
that's...
feel bad. Thanks a lot.
That's not something that's changed in 30 years then.
No, they're getting
You made
worse.
him feel unsafe.
They're kind of they're getting worse. Basically, I got karate kicked in the head in the sandpit. By a kid. I was just going to say his name, and I don't want to say his name. And
Yeah, that of Angry Mannix fans.
yeah, no. He was a good guy actually. But remember Kung Fu on the TV?
Yeah.
He was just like trying to be David Carradine in the sandpit, and bam! I went back home and I had an Apollo rocket above my bed, and then I was like, "Mum!" And there was 3 of them, and she was like, "Oh God!" And she looked at me and. My eyes were all over the place.
Wow.
So, thanks for bringing that
Yeah.
up.
Richie, what an end to the interview.
Well, you should at least get the chance to take us through the dates because
They're on.
They are getting worse.
James, you
Yeah.
get a chain for them. I think they look fantastic.
Well, Larry Grayson, chain and lanyard. I've got one. So, Friday, 28th of June, Llangollen International Music Eisteddfod. Tuesday, 2nd of July, Dublin Trinity College. Friday, 5th of July, Cardiff Castle. Wednesday, 10th of July, Edinburgh Castle. Like the football results, isn't it?
James Alexander Gordon.
Friday, 12th of July, Manchester Castlefield Bowl. Saturday, 13th of July, Leeds Millennium Square. Thursday, 18th of July, London Alexander Palace Park.
And the pool's forecast is good.
Good. Well, and one thing we were talking about before you guys came in, that obviously the Mannix would have Bagsied Cardiff Castle, right?
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? In terms of, did you work that out a little bit like Alexandra Palace Park maybe for Suede, and then
Yeah, we sort of divvied it up. Like, it sort of seemed.
There are obvious
seemed
ones.
fair, yeah.
We let our people deal with it, didn't we, Brett?
Yeah,
your people talk to my
Our
people.
people.
It's fine. Yeah, and to be honest, playing first isn't always the worst thing. Actually, we found that out on the American tour. Lots of the times we went on first were actually some of my favourite nights. So sometimes it's hard. It just depends on the gig, really.
Well, listen, Day Camping Kung Fu Kicks, what an end to the show.
Yep.
Amazing to have you both on. Brett Anderson, James Dean Bradfield, Suede and Manic Street Preachers co-headlining tour. Get your tickets now. It's going to be amazing. Thank you so much.
Thank you,
very much.
guys.
Thanks.